Hey, Andrew.
What's up, Riley?
Do you want to record a podcast?
Sure, but what should we do it about?
So, my friend at Cello Buster on Twitter, Alex Keswick, says the first podcast.
The first podcast.
Podcast. The
host
creators did sing.
Was to, what was, hold on.
Was four guys from high school with Xboxes playing.
In basements they lay without no sleep. And now they converse as though it was deep. Podcast. This is going to be miserable for you to edit. You have fun syncing that up.
Oh, fuck. And it has to come out tomorrow, too. Like, I can't put this off.
Yeah, this is due in 6 hours, so have fun.
I missed having deadlines from college. This is nice. The first podcast, Andrew. I think that this is I think this is an investigative podcast. You know what I mean? You know, like a true crime. This is the ultimate true crime podcast because it's the crime of creating podcasting.
Who started this?
Which one of you motherfuckers? And so we are doing like research. We're hunting down the first podcast.
So it's gotta be some Apple employee, right?
No, I think it's before that, right?
Well,
Like Apple popularized it, but I guess we have to define what is a podcast.
yeah, so I think that the first podcast is something that it has to have started as a podcast.
Mm-hmm. It's
It
not like
can't
a radio show that they moved to a podcast or a
Exactly.
video that they put on YouTube that they put the audio online.
Exactly. So I can tell you the first time I ever read the word podcast was on a poster at a Catholic high school in Covington, Kentucky oh boy, what year was that? What year would I have been in 7th grade?
Oh boy.
That's a long time ago, I'm realizing. I started college in 2010, which means that 5 years before then. So 2005.
2005. I think the first time I knew about podcast was Hi, My Name is Mark Hoppus's podcast, which was a Mark Hoppus from Blink 182.
Okay.
Which
That would explain why I don't know the name.
Let me see. Start. Let me type in start here. Mark Hoppus is also the first person I ever followed on Twitter. That was when I was in high school. So
Mine was the Pope.
Really?
Fun thing about my Twitter feed is that when I look at like the info about it, it was started in Rome because I was in Rome at the time, and the newspaper came out and said, "Hey, the Pope is on Twitter." And I said, "Well, if it's good enough for him, I guess I can get on it." And so I started my account and I followed at Pontifex. And it's just been a wild ride since then.
I feel like I've heard this story before, but it's still baffling to me.
So
Hi, My Name is Mark started in 2012. Wait. Yeah. Wait, hosted a weekly podcast in 2005 through 2006, which returned in 2015. So, yes, 2005 through 2006, I guess, is when I heard about this.
Because that's when, like, iPods came out. And then, as a secondary thing that was like, how do we do audio that isn't music? We can't put it on iTunes. We'll have our own separate feed for podcasts. And then they've ignored that feed ever since, and it's been the best thing for the industry.
Mm-hmm. Apple had issued a cease and desist order against a lot of podcast developers for using the term pod in their products' names in 2005.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's weird to like name. That'd be like, hey, we're a television company, and great people would be like, great, we've got a TV show, and they're like, smash a bottle in the bar and be like, you better not have fucking called it a television show.
Well, no, because it's weirder than that, right? Because it's like if Kleenex was the brand that was out there, they're like, oh, these are Kleenexes, and someone made bigger Kleenexes, and they were like, these are towel nexes, and it's like, hey, right? Because they're taking the pod from iPod, right? Pod has no other etymology,
right? But it's going on the pod, like it's going on the iPod, right?
Hypothetically.
So that's how it started. It was only Apple had the podcasting thing, right? So they were like, hey, give us your podcasts, and they're like, great, here's here's the podcast. Mine's there, but for the grace of Pod Go E. And they were like, did you just say fucking pod?
You motherfucker, did you just say pod?
Come again? So it's got to be okay. So we know vaguely when we need to start looking. But we tracked down who the first podcaster was, and just say, and it's probably, my gut says it's an Apple employee who was like, hey, we're going to do this, and like proof of concept to show our bosses this can take off. And we're going to be like, so how do you feel? You did this.
You did this to all of us. Do you think that Apple sends them residuals? I'm now like digging through a article
Absolutely
called "The
not.
History of Podcasting," and I have here in August 2000, the New England Patriots launched a IP radio show, which was on demand on their website. It was not an actual radio show, but they called it an IP radio show. It only came through their website, and it was called an audio blog.
So here's the question, and we are 8 minutes in still talking about this, but at which I love it when our episodes just really start absorbing themselves through their own butthole. Do we the real question is a podcast, does it start when it can be called a podcast? What do we our question is, what do we define as the first podcast? My answer is that if it's calling itself an audio blog and isn't on the podcasting platform of Apple, it's not a podcast.
Ooh, here I have the origins of the name. You ready for this?
It's from pod, right? Like iPod.
In February 2004, journalist Ben Hammersley suggested the term podcasting as a name for the nascent technology. 7 months later, Danny Gregoire used the term podcasting to describe the automatic download and synchronization of audio comment. He also registered several podcast-related domains. This motherfucker.
That's how you do it.
This was then picked up by podcasting evangelists such as Dave Slusher, Weiner, and Curry, and entered common usage. And in September, Adam Curry launched a mailing list. Yeah. So 2004 is the first time someone said podcasting. Do I have an article here that I can source? Yeah, it was originally called online radio.
This is a question that probably matters to me more than it matters to anyone else. But I feel like the question is, does something have to have been created, quote, as a podcast, end quote, in order for it to be considered the first podcast?
I mean,
because
Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, and the other one, because there's 4 of them. They didn't say we're going to make grunge music. They just made grunge music. You know what I mean?
Our job just got infinitely harder then.
Chuck Berry didn't say I'm going to go out there and make rock and roll. He just did it.
Is that Marty McFly's cousin?
Yeah, you get it. Thanks for getting a joke in here. I know we needed one for
Anytime, bud. I'm happy to add jokes to our podcast. Make sure you edit that into post.
This is we've decided that this is a great idea for a podcast, and clearly somebody should do this.
Yeah, we spent 10 minutes on this figuring out what is a podcast. So we're making great time already. Great time, better content. I got an idea for you.
Yeah, what's up?
So
wait, Podpajons. Great ideas, better content, Podpajons.
We're not calling our podcast to that, but that is a name that is going into my back pocket. Um, Philip Chung at Phil W. Chung writes in and says, a podcast that teachers can play during class is a treat, but actually because they haven't made a lesson plan.
Ooh.
So Riley, I got a question. What is the Finding Nemo of...
Oh, you got it. You nailed it immediately.
Actually, it's not Finding Nemo because it's December as we're recording this. What is the Elf of podcasts?
Mm-hmm. Elf Happy Feet was sometimes played for me.
Ooh.
Got a lot of
Shrek.
Shrek.
Fancy.
It was Shrek, Happy Feet, and Finding Nemo. So. Or if you're real nasty, Donald Duck and Mathland.
For us, it was the first half of Finding Nemo or the first half of Elf, and you never finished it.
Never finished it. Some kids out there waiting, like, God damn it!
Will they
I'll
find
never
the
know
kid?
what happens. Okay. So we need to be something that is ostensibly, like, it doesn't need to be educational, I guess, right?
No, it's Finding Nemo. It's garbage.
So what is it? What is the thing that Finding Nemo, Shrek, and Elf all have that is the common denominator? Is it that it is absolutely harmless?
Honestly, yeah, I think that's really the only thing they have going for them. I think that it's like nobody except the person with the weirdly religious parents can look at the movies and go like, we can't show our kids that. It has to be a movie that like, we need to make a podcast that no one can object to, that is semi-entertaining enough that a teacher can put it on, but also not really give a shit if the kids don't listen.
Yeah.
And it has to be like long enough that it can last an entire class period.
So a class period, if we're going by period sessions, that's 45 minutes. If we're going by block scheduling, that's an hour and a half.
We did block scheduling in school.
We did blocks too. In high school, we switched to block. In middle school, we did periods.
Okay.
But like, so we're sitting here at an hour and a half. What is an hour and a half of just absolutely painless filler content? Also, let me take a second. We're not going to dunk on any podcast in this bit.
No, I agree.
We're not going to say any podcast here.
I honestly, I don't have one in mind because no podcast. Shit, I almost slipped into being mean.
I know. It's hard. I was going
to say no podcast that isn't produced by blank fits into this mold.
Oh no. Is it? Do we have to have a narrative? Right? Like, is it a narrative podcast that's just like you?
I think
start,
it has
like,
to be because we got to keep the kids' attention.
It's an hour and a half. And it's longer than an hour and a half because you'll never finish it.
Yeah, so they can only listen to the first half of this. It can't be about anything with an actual topic because we need the biology teacher could show this, the science teacher, the math teacher, anyone could show this. So what is a topicless podcast with no bite?
Oh, Andrew, I have one.
What do you have?
It's mean.
Tell me your mean joke.
Is it crit role-playing Honey Heist? Is it 4 hours of 7 voice actors playing bears doing light crimes?
I mean, that might be it. It's probably an actual play where they edit... Okay, it's an actual play where they edit out the actual play parts, I think.
It's just like we did this, we did this, we did this.
Yeah, anytime you get into like rules minutia or like talk around the table, that gets edited out.
Those are gone.
And I think that we're playing a game that is like accessible enough that anyone listening can pick up on what they're doing, but also not like attachable enough that anyone would really get attached to. And I mean no offense to the game, but I think that you got it with Honey Heist.
Yeah. It's meant for a one shot. It's meant to spark your brain and then immediately leave it.
Okay, so and it's got funny animals doing cute voices, which is what these movies need.
Every movie we listed has a funny animal doing something cute.
Yeah, absolutely. We got it. We got
it in one. What's is the name of this? Crit Role Plays Honey Heist.
I don't think it necessarily has to be. I don't think, honestly, I don't think it's crit. You know what? I specifically don't think it's crit roleplays Honey Heist, and I don't mean this as much of an insult as it's going to sound. They're not big enough names.
Get their ass.
It needs to be. Look. Finding Nemo is Ellen DeGeneres and Albert Brooks, with like I think John Goodman shows up and like a big name plays the shark. You got Elf.
William Dafoe
Elf is
is
what's his name that I don't like.
Will Ferrell?
Yeah, that's the guy. And Zoe Deschanel, who wasn't huge at the time, but like was big enough to be an elf. Shrek is fucking Shrek, you know? I think that we need like actual celebrities.
So, who we can't go to. We have to keep our celebrities. This kind of like there could be one person that you're like that person's in here.
Okay,
But
yeah.
like everyone else so Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah, okay, great. Kelsey Grammer's playing Honey Heist alongside The Rock is in it. Chris Pratt. We're gonna get
And then who's our one wild card? Our one like what the hell are they doing here? Is it Charlie Day?
I was thinking Charlie Day or Jason Mantzoukas. Okay, and then a couple of like more B-list actors. Perfect, we got it.
Got it in one.
We got it in one.
The gang plays Honey Heist.
The gang plays Honey Heist. It has been 15 minutes, and we're talking about the second idea. So I need you to hit me with another topic.
I have two topics for you. One is from Stephen Moore, a podcast where the conversations are compiled entirely from Riley's soundboards. I have good news about an episode of Never Believe It that's coming out soon. Happy Oturanza, everybody. Second, I have a suggestion from my good friend Sarah McCostumes, who is at Oturanza with 1A, a podcast where you wish every single one of your listeners a very pleasant evening, one by one. Andrew, you know when sometimes people thank their patrons on air?
I want to pause you real quick. You said their at is Oturanza with 1A. That does not tell anyone how to spell that word. It's not like a normal word that people would be able to spell. And so, only 1A. Secondly, how do you spell Oturanza with 1A?
Well, it's not Oturanza. It's Oturanza, like a bonanza. That's 1A. Technically, there are two A's, but there's not
there's
three
two
A's.
Okay, there's always one A in bonanza. I mean, there's only. What's the pitch? Sorry, I'm getting caught up on this.
Podcast where you wish every single one of your listeners a very pleasant evening, one by one. So you know how some podcasts thank their patrons.
Yeah,
we are not necessarily thanking them, but we are going like, now listen, Jeff Stormer, I know you're in your car right now, and I hope you're having a wonderful time. Know that you are loved, and I hope you have a great day. And then we go down our entire list of people and just kind of give them a little pleasant energy. So Andrew, let's go back and forth. Let's wish some of our listeners a good time.
Well, so here's the deal. We're not Spotify, which means that we don't know who listens to our podcast.
We know who types in / hashtag the podcast mind. So if you want if you want us to wish you a good night, you just got to interact with the show. So okay, I'm looking at our numbies right now. We got 124 listens on the first listener day to our last episode. A, y'all got to get those numbies up. B, so we need to go through and just like I'll have a clicker here, and we just go, okay, we're just gonna go back and forth and trade off saying hellos and good nights to people for 124. That's 62 each. That sounds good to me. All right.
Okay, we'll start doing this next episode. But in the meantime,
damn it.
In the meantime, I got an idea here for a show. Nathan puts at Nathan Cycle writes in and says, can you make an improvised podcast called Yes, Andrew? Riley, I don't know how into improv you are, but there's a concept of yes and, which is where you carry the bit forward rather than shutting the bit down.
Yeah.
And?
Yes.
And?
Yes.
Riley, we're really slowing down on this one. We've only talked about like 4 different ideas.
You're right. Lightning round.
I got a lightning round for you. Are you ready for this?
Gotcha.
The acolyte of false god at saving lives at AB274 Fantast writes in and says, "Hey, I got some podcast titles. I want your very quick pitches for each of these titles."
Got you.
Mouth pods.
Mouth pods, that's where you know how some podcasts try to get rid of mouth noises? We're only mouth noises, baby. We get rid of the words.
Ooh, dad tube.
Dad tube, it's a lot. You'd think it's a lot of decks. You'd think it's a lot of like, all right, this is how you drink Miller Lite. But it's actually just like dad's live commentating on NASCAR races. And they're very quiet the entire time, except for like every once in a while they go, oh, 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 and then they calm down again.
Okay, just a mumblecore podcast?
Yeah, mumblecore, yep.
Cool, the Mike Sherman. 2 peas in a podcast.
2 peas in a podcast is where you get 2 siblings and you lock them in a room together and they have to come out with a podcast.
This is our get along podcast. Mic check.
Mic check. We call your dad and see how he's doing.
Okay, that was in the C, but I'll take it. Leave your vibes at the door.
That is the podcast we do before recording this episode every time. We just let it out.
Listeners should know, I've got 2 therapists, and they're both named Riley H. Is something that I realized this week. Here we go. Look upon my pods, ye mighty, and despair. That's this show, right?
That's this show, baby. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Growing in my fridge.
Wait, sorry, pause. That's not this show. That's when this show is done with Will Smith and then one other famous person.
Oh, yeah. The podcast Luminaries?
Yeah.
All right, what's growing in my fridge? Actually, I want to slow this one back down. Growing in my fridge is our new podcast that makes us check our fridge every week and throw out the bad stuff. We're going to get real. What's in your fridge that should not be there anymore, Riley?
Oh, Andrew. There's a bunch of rice I made. And I was like, you know what I'll do with this is I'll add it into like a breakfast burrito, or I'll add it into the next time I make something with rice. And it's like, no, I'll just make fresh rice because it's not hard.
Yeah.
It's nice to make fresh rice. I've got all this beef broth. And so now there's just like stale rice in the fucking fridge.
And rehydrated rice sucks. So like, I don't want to reheat rice. I have at least 2 things of rice in my fridge. We also have a wonderful thing that I'm pretty sure moved into this house with us. And I think it's my roommates, but at this point I don't think either of us know because it has been sitting in our fridge long enough that none of us want to touch it.
Yeah, you have to like there comes a time, right, when you're like, I need to get rid of this, but if I get rid of this it needs to go away immediately. It needs to be as I'm taking out the trash.
Yeah, we do not have big enough kid pants to take care of it. It's one of those things where it's like, this wasn't a nice thing of Tupperware, it's going to, because I will never be able to use this again without thinking this is the Tupperware that was in my fridge for 2 years.
And that's one of those things you just don't want to unseal.
Exactly.
Because unsealing it is where the danger lies.
Yeah, it's like in a movie where it's just like, oh, they've been fully corrupted by the evil. Like we can't pull them back from the darkness now. They've just been like fully entrenched. They're the fucking Zemnis of leftovers.
Get a sticker and put it on it, and just, this is not a place of honor. No highly esteemed deed is commemorated here. Here is a suggestion from GM Jeff Stormer called Reply Guy or Die. Did you say ugh?
I did.
Enemy of the pod, GM Jeff Stormer says, reply guy or die.
This is just reply all, right?
No, that was the next suggestion they said, which was reply guy all.
Oh, okay.
I have a reply. I have a reply from our reply guy, our very own reply guy.
The official Podcast Minds reply guy, Jeff Stormer, I assume.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, let me take one quick second, tell you I love you, tell you are fantastic, and thank you for all these interactions.
But we're going to put you on fucking blast.
You're on the fucking hot seat, buddy. We have the Don't At Me files by Jeff Stormer.
The Don't At Me files.
Mm-hmm. The don't at me files.
Is this the X-Files for weird Twitter interactions?
For weird Twitter. When you get a Twitter interaction that feels like this, what? Was I part of the other half of this conversation?
This is so yeah, I had this today. So I made a very good, very funny advertisement for my my hit game Chess 2, a sequel to the game of chess. And Riley, I don't know if you know this, but there's a big hit show on Netflix that's about Chess 1.
Yeah,
And
I've heard about this.
Chess 1's
podcast.
numbers are up because of it. So I was just telling people, like, hey, you should pick up my game, and then that way you won't be spoiled before Chess 2, because you'll know what the season 2 is going to be about, you know?
Yeah. So that way you have a sense of idea.
A bunch of people replied to it just talking about how Netflix does their shows dirty, or about how it's cool that Chess 1's numbers are up, or about how it's neat that this industry is having this effect on things. And you know what they're not doing?
Not buying Chess 2.
They're not buying my game. So I need to launch this show and figure out what went wrong with this tweet and why did people respond the way that they did.
It's reverse social engineering to figure out why people just didn't fucking get it.
Yeah. Okay, so this is when we come in and we say, hey, we're basically doing the Hank Green podcast where he talks about his Twitter feed to his wife. But what we're doing is we're saying, hey, here's a joke that I made on Twitter earlier this week, and nobody liked it. So we need to go in and figure out what went wrong.
We have a Twitter expert here who is going over our tweet and sits there and is like, okay, so you had a good idea here, but you tweeted this at the wrong time, or you didn't your phrasing could have been better here and here.
Okay. I'm looking through my Twitter feed now. The problem is that all of my jokes are just really good and funny.
And they all do gangbusters.
All do great numbers. So it's hard for me to find.
Well, tell you what, since you're having trouble finding this, what if I gave you a different suggestion?
Hit me.
All right. Andrew?
Yes.
This is a suggestion from me that Jeff hashtagged the podcast minds under it, but I said the suggestion. What is the best looking game system? We rank game systems that have been released based on their aesthetics. This is the thing that doesn't matter, but I think that this podcast will earn us both $6,000.
Yeah, I feel like this is a good limited run podcast that we just do, and we just get kind of a little bit uncomfortable about each podcast, or each video game system.
Yes. And so are we doing every video game system, or are we doing the ones that matter?
Well, we got to do everyone, otherwise nerds on the internet will be mad at us. I do not want a mob coming for us because we didn't mention the Kalika vision.
That is fair. Andrew, I guess I'm just going to say one, and I want you to give it I'm going to say one. We're going to base everything around the Game Boy Advanced, the big crystal one, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
We're good. That is our middle. That's where we're starting.
You think that that's the most middle-looking game system?
But you need to start with one, and I wanted to think of some way something I could imagine things going over and things that I can imagine.
Sure.
Going under.
Okay. I'm sorry for jumping down your throat like that.
No, I think it's a pristine game system, and I say every fucking day that they should have never gotten rid of crystal designs on things.
I will say we are barely even one in, and that energy, that angsty gamer energy, is already coming out. So this is perfect. We're gonna get a lot of hits.
All right. So, are you writing these down? I'm asking you to write these down.
I did not realize you were asking me to write these down. Let me write this down. Hold on.
Okay.
Game Boy Advanced Crystal.
And then Andrew, I'm gonna hit you with the original PS3.
The one that looks like a gerbil coffin?
Yeah, that big fucker.
Okay, that one's going to go under.
That goes under the Game Boy Advanced?
Yeah, I got written down here Game Boy Advance and then gerbil coffin. Parentheses PS3.
All right, I think I agree with you. Now you name a game console.
You know what? I'm gonna go with the Wii U.
The Wii U. A bold decision.
It's a game system, but both sounds and plays like you just farted.
I think it goes above the PS3 in terms of aesthetics,
Okay.
but under the Game Boy Advanced.
Do we have to count for UI in this discussion?
No, this is what console looks the best visually.
Okay, it's just visually sitting on your shelf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Xbox 360, Andrew.
Below the gerbil coffin.
Whoa,
Because at
really?
least the gerbil coffin said something.
The Xbox 360?
It said bury a gerbil in me, but it's something.
The original Xbox 360?
Yeah, the white thing that burned too hot. Yeah, I know the system.
This thing, you think it goes under the PS3 in terms of aesthetics?
I do. Riley, I feel like I got a problem here, which is that this could all be done in one episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that we can really bring in the big bucks with one episode. I think that we need this to be an evolving system of like we need multiple episodes. We need to be able to tweet and say, "Hey, at Nintendo of America, today we're talking about one of your systems. Hey, at Sega, sorry about your luck. Hey, Sony, today we're doing this one."
So do we do one game system? We give like a brief history on it, a long form description of its aesthetics.
Do you remember back in the good old days of games journalism, back when it was good, when someone wrote that article about how holding the PlayStation 4 controller was like holding a woman?
Yep. They specifically likened it to a boob.
They certainly did. We're gonna make the podcast equivalent of that about every console.
Just long form masturbatory conversations
Yes.
about game consoles. Beautiful. Love that.
The ultimate gaming content.
Now the thing is, I want to say here, the GameCube. Where would you put the GameCube?
GameCube's a fun, chunky thing. It's pretty high. I think
it's above the Game Boy Advanced.
I think it's above the Game Boy Advance.
I can't think of anything that goes over the GameCube. Not a single thing. Immediately under it is the SP.
The Atari 2600 with the wood panel. Or the Game Boy Micro.
Game Boy Micro is good, but it's too small for the form factor. That Atari 2600 with that wood panel, though,
that's
definitely
shit.
up there. That's definitely up there.
That's like stroking someone's hair and kissing them goodnight.
The GameCube, to me, feels like what I would imagine holding a child for the first time would be like. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
To feel them in your arms like a life of another human.
I like this weird, gross energy we're bringing to this. Good work, team.
I like it too. It's where it belongs. Where I belong. Here, saying weird shit about consoles.
Tucked nice in with your console, ready to truly feel love for the first time. With a video game machine.
Hi-ho.
Hi-ho.